What's up, everyone? Welcome to Chicks and Salsa. I am Megan Price. I have Jen Matthews Lewis next to me. We got Candy below me and Carrie Johnson as well. How's everybody's week going?
Pretty good. How about yours?
Busy, busy, busy.
Busy, busy, busy. Especially down here in South Florida. Like we're just kind of loving like the sports scene right now. Sorry.
Okay. And so I am not necessarily rooting for y'all's hockey team, but I have picked y'all to go to the Stanley Cup. I'm hoping it's you guys versus the Stars, and then it's war. Yeah, but I actually have a colleague that was covering the game last night between the Seattle Kraken and the Dallas Stars, and that crowd was insane. It was like a sea of green everywhere. So
yeah, I watched a little bit of TV.
Playoff hockey is something else.
So is playoff NBA though. Really, like I'll be honest, I don't watch a ton of it during the year, but like it's been exciting. Like in some of the games or most of the games have been exciting and fun to watch.
Absolutely so. So I'm going to share the show a little bit, and you ladies feel free to talk about what you want to talk about.
I was just going to say, Carrie and I have a little beef right now. She's kind of mad at me.
Oh, no.
But I love you, Carrie. It's okay. We'll get through it. We've gotten through worse things before.
Mad at you.
So Jen is a Celtics fan.
I'm not a Tatum fan, and we'll just leave it as a blanket statement.
I love you.
I can agree with you at 50% of that, but I like Jason Tatum.
Right.
The good Tatum won.
So, you did.
I didn't say anything out loud.
So there's been lots of news in the NBA lately. We have our conference finals are starting tonight. Tonight we've got LA versus Denver. LA coming in as the 7th seed. Denver coming in as the 1 seed, so they will be in Denver tonight. And then tomorrow night starts the Miami Heat versus the Boston Celtics. Boston comes in at the 2 seed, and Miami comes in as the 8 seed. Insane, making it this far to the Eastern Conference Finals. So exciting series. I think both of those could go the distance of 7 games, but I really feel like the Eastern Conference Finals will probably go 7 games.
I think Butler, especially if he's as hot as he just takes it to a whole nother level. Jen, you can stick your tongue out. I don't care.
I don't like Miami Heat fans. They're asinine.
I'm a Milwaukee Bucks fan.
In my experience.
They eliminated my team, so am I happy with that? No. But Jimmy Butler takes his game to a whole nother level when it's playoff time. I mean, he just does. Like, I can't explain it, but he does.
He absolutely does. I definitely give the edge to Boston as far as a more complete roster at this moment. When it comes to heart and coaching, though, that's Miami's gig right there, because Miami has an extremely experienced coach, somebody who has coached them to exactly where they're at right now. Like they're missing Oladipo, they're missing Tyler Herro, and despite that, they knocked out the number 1 seed. Like who had them picked to beat Milwaukee? None of us. Like only Miami Heat fans were picking their team to beat Milwaukee. And then they come and they beat a solid roster with New York as well. So and did it in a fashion in which they didn't leave a lot of questions out there. They were close games, but they still look dominant the whole time. So for me, when it comes to that series, that's why I think it's going to go 7, because the heart of Jimmy. And then, when it comes to coaching experience, because there have been times when I'm watching Boston and I'm like, they're getting out coached.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I believe in gimme buckets.
Yes.
Okay, our beef may end after the Celtics won this.
I'm looking at it as there's a chance of something kind of pretty cool to happen. 2 bubble teams make it to the finals. So I'm rooting for that synopsis, not because of who it is. Well, I mean, I don't, who it isn't, maybe, I don't know. It's not Tatum. Um, but I'm rooting for, I'm hoping for the Lakers and the Heat just because it's a unique situation. 2 play-in teams to get into there. So that's pretty cool thought. It parallels what I think really is interesting is it parallels how the NCAA tournament went this year.
What do you mean?
With the men's tournament with the exit of the number 1 seed so quickly, we saw teams that we thought would go further along but get ejected quickly or taken out quickly. So I don't know. It's neat. It's kind of like rooting for the underdog at this point. So that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
But I think with the whole final playoffs, let's face it, 4 of the teams that made the playoffs in the NBA, 4 of their coaches are gone.
All right.
6 coaches are gone in the NBA. I mean, what does that say? That what level do we put on the coaches that they have to either take it all in and win it all, or they're not?
Right.
Like, that was that whole business, talking about was the Milwaukee Bucks season a failure? And he was talking all about that, like, because they made the playoffs, but they lost with number 1 seed, and they lost in the first opening round to the 8th seed. Are they a failure? Well, that's the same thing you're telling all these coaches that you just fired that brought their teams to the playoffs as well.
So I kind of think each situation is unique. When you come to Milwaukee, I think that the writing was kind of on the wall for Mike the season before they won their championship. Like, it was do or die 3 years ago. And I don't know that they necessarily won that series because of Mike's coaching. Because they spent the entire season not adjusting and dropping games that they should not have dropped games. But then, then they went down 3 games to Phoenix. And so it looked like, but then they adjusted. And so I don't know if that came from Mike. I don't know if that came from one of his assistants, or I don't know if that came from Giannis that was just like, you know what, no matter what, I'm putting the team on my back and we're doing this. So I'm not sure what happened on those sidelines or really what on the court that led to that. And so I think that championship just kind of bought him a little bit more time, because you can't fire a coach that just won a championship. You know what I mean? But I don't think they were happy with him before that. When you get to Monty's situation over there in Phoenix, I think that because they have new ownership came in mid-season. And so I think that, on a combination of 2 bad exits in the playoffs back to back, and then you got a brand new owner, I think they were like, okay, well, we're going to put our own people in, and so I do think that they're both good coaches and are going to do well elsewhere. And then some of the other firings, I don't agree with at all. Like Nick Nurse, I don't agree with that.
I don't even agree with Doc Rivers, to be honest with you.
No. Okay.
No, I don't think it's Doc. I'm just saying.
No, but I think it is.
Okay, if it's not Doc, why didn't he have success in LA with the Clippers? Because he was a part of Lob City. He had Chris Paul. He in his prime. He had Blake Griffin in his prime. He had Lou Williams in his prime. He had Patrick Beverly in his prime. He had Jamal Crawford. Like, he had a lot of talent over there. And then even in Boston, they only got 1 championship out of, and I like how JJ put it in his post earlier today, and that was maybe Doc is just outdated. Like, he can't get his players to buy in right now, and that's why they seem like they have a lack of energy and a lack of caring. So the league has changed, as we know. So
it has.
I don't know.
The other thing is, I'm gonna throw this out there, is one, Philly does not like losing. So that's a volatile place. It doesn't matter what the sport is. It's a do or die situation. I mean, they're just very impassioned city about their sports. 2, is that a nice way to say that? Okay, so 2, I also think that it isn't about Doc necessarily, in the fact that you've got Harden, them wanting to keep, apparently it looks as if they're wanting to keep Harden, and Harden had already turned against Doc in the press, the post conference. So there's something there. There's animosity, and I don't know what. But if they're going to they're placating Harden, and from part of that. But then at the same time, Andy Reid left Philly without having a championship. That's why he was fired.
Right.
2 Super Bowls in Kansas City. So it's the right place, the right time. I don't think that it's necessarily Doc 100%, but there's something that is not gelling with this younger crowd. And Andy Reid has even talked about how he has learned to mold and morph with the newer generations as they're coming in. And maybe Doc is very staunch in what he believes, and it's hard for him to shift to a newer mindset. I mean, that may be, I don't know, but Philly is a tough city to be in if you're not a winner.
Right. And then when I want to chime in on that, I don't know if your ladies saw my post, but we saw the drama that Ben Simmons posted on his Twitter, like he was sipping tea, throwing shade that Philly got knocked out or that they were losing really badly Sunday. I don't take criticism. That old saying, you don't take shade from trees that don't bear fruit. Like, bro, you don't log any playing minutes. He hasn't played a game in months. Before the playoffs, he hadn't played a game in months. Like, worry about your own grass.
So
play some minutes.
Megan, I don't know if you saw it or not, but I said he's the true Mr. Irrelevant. You haven't done nothing. Yes. You haven't shown nothing. You haven't been there. So your shade is not even covering yourself. So let's stop.
And wasn't his team knocked out too? I'm just wondering.
And he didn't play at that also. Like his team was knocked out and he didn't play for a couple of months before the playoffs even started. So he's a joke.
When is the last time he played?
3 months. Now he has an incredible athletic ability. It's not like the man can't play. He can't shoot very well, but he is an excellent defensive player. Like I think maybe the year that Rudy Gobert got it most recently, that I really thought Ben Simmons probably should have been defensive player of the year. But something has happened in his mental state, and then also he has back problems, so something has happened where he does not feel confident on the floor. So speaking of not being confident on the floor, maybe somebody that's a little too overconfident, every time he get around a gun, it seems to be a problem. Ja Morant. She said,
ladies, at this point in time, I'm just literally worried about the man's mental health. Like, his dad is known to be so positive.
He's grown.
He is grown, but he's also immature, because keep in mind, when you're an athlete to that level, and this is really well established, especially in MLB, but it kind of takes heart in every single sport. When one area of your life is so controlled, you're going to try to control every other aspect, right? And that being said, he really does need to figure out what's going on. Memphis is, I hate to say it because there's so much history in Memphis, but Memphis is not known for being a safe city. So I kind of want him to check himself or even get traded to another team, because he and Dylan Brooks do not need to be together. Like,
well, they're not continuing with Dylan Brooks.
I know they cut him. But I don't think he needs to be there. I agree with you, Tyler.
Last night on Sports Arena,
I'm over it.
I don't want anything bad to happen to him, but like last night on Sports Arena, Raylan was talking about how, the man is 24 years old. You know what Raylan was doing at 24 years old? And I want to chime in and say my brother too. He was overseas fighting for America. Like, if you can make the decision at 18 years old and go be a man and represent our country or woman, an adult, then I don't know. I don't think I'm over it. You got a slap on the wrist. You got it. You got a little leeway. You have no business playing basketball next season. But I will say this too. I don't think, what was the name of the guy on your team, Jen, that got in trouble for abusing his Miles Bridges. Okay, so he should have not been.
I will never go to a Hornets game again if he does.
Right. And so he got a 40-game suspension. One, he should not be playing basketball for at least a year, a season, which and it ended up working out that he didn't play this next season, but that wasn't his choice.
And he's not signed anywhere this year too.
Right.
Yet.
And then but Ja has no business playing basketball next season either. I'm gonna be real. He's an adult.
He's an adult.
They brought up an interesting point on one of the shows today, and it was on Mother's Day, right before Game 7 of two very high-powered, high-flying offenses. The number one trending topic worldwide was not the Celtics and the Sixers or any of their players. It was Ja Morant on Mother's Day. So you have a big captive audience that's, that, and all excited about a game, and they're having to be placated with Ja Morant's story. Bad look for the NBA.
Do you know who I keep thinking of with all this gone and the Grizzlies? Lorenz Wright, the Grizzlies basketball player who ended up being killed by essentially by his wife. She was brought up on capital murder.
I remember this.
He didn't pull the trigger, but she had her cousin's yard man pull the trigger.
Right.
Oh yeah, there's that guy.
And then he said
Alec.
Gilbert Arenas. Yeah, because that ruined his career. The gun case for Gilbert Arenas, that ruined his career. And so Ja has to be held to the same accountability. You know why?
Exactly.
Because they already gave him a slap on the wrist. And you went back and did it again. You really had Jalen Rose out here looking like Oprah Winfrey trying to sell your case to us that you were a changed man.
Yep.
And everybody looks like fools.
Yep. Because we're like, all right, you screwed up. Whatever. But it's also like...
He
has to make the right decision because, Memphis isn't a safe city, but not everybody in Memphis is bad.
Right.
You can surround yourself.
I think he's being somebody he's not. I think he's being somebody that he's not.
Oh,
they didn't really come from humble beginnings like that. And I'm not saying, you don't make bad decisions, even whatever your financial status is. But, and then also, I feel like, you got to look at the Memphis situation and who's in charge in Memphis. Who's the coach? Taylor Jenkins. And so now he's having all this drama with Dylan Brooks. And then you have all this drama with Ja. And so, would that happen in San Antonio? Does anything like that happen with Popovich at the head of his team? No. You know why? Steven Jackson tried it. He got put out.
Mm-hmm.
So, part of that has to come from the top, too,
And that has to do with ownership as well, because even look at the Hornets. Yeah, Miles Bridges, what he did was horrific. And in my opinion, he should be in jail for attempted murder. But hey, and child neglect, that's just this girl's opinion. However, when you look at the history of Charlotte sports, like the Panthers and the Hornets, you do something like that, your ass is gone. Pardon the ASS, but you're gone. Greg Hardy, Ray Caruth, obviously he ended up in jail. Miles Bridges, but even then there weren't ever many things. But we lost a player for the Charlotte Hornets back in 1992-ish. He was the first player we retired for speeding. Since then, every single owner of the Charlotte Hornets, Charlotte Bobcats have stipulated a code of conduct. If you do not abide by code of conduct, you're gone. After Fred Lane was mercilessly killed by his estranged wife, Jerry Richardson put that down. Then Ray Caruth did what he did. All in the same season, ladies. All in the same season.
Let's face it. If any one of us with our jobs did anything like what they are doing, we would all be out. Code of conduct we all have. Why is it so much different for someone that's making such money?
Yes.
That they get, all these passes that we wouldn't get. It's a little slap on the wrist. Oh, we're going to, take 8 games from you. Well, what does that mean for him? Oh, I get to play around for 8 games and I get to do what I want. That's not a punishment to him.
Right.
Hey,
no, absolutely not.
If you want to get rid of money, just give it to us. Literally, we can use
the original incident. like the original incident was across state lines and it was in a club. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but if y'all been to a bar, there's a sign everywhere, and it doesn't matter where you are, where the gun laws are. You're not allowed to be somewhere where they serve alcohol and have a firearm. And clearly, he was drunk.
Was he drunk this last time? Because I didn't even.
They were in a car moving. The person, and that's another aspect of it. So, person filming is also driving at the time. So, like, there's more to it than just you damaging your own career.
Then there was something about the a laser pointer, and the guy that was driving was also the one that got in trouble with in college.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So it's like, obviously, I mean, I realize that
That's what you're talking about. When Tyler said that the high school recruit Mickey Williams got busted too when he was committed to Memphis on gun charges. I don't know. Like, I'm asking. I really don't know.
Yeah, no, I all I heard was, and this is hearing in passing because I'm kind of over how different people get different passes, but
agreed.
Huh?
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. If you if any of us pulled that and we're not even faces of an industry. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to be the face of an industry, but no.
Working for banks is not fun when you can't have guns on premises.
Yeah.
Well, it's like kind of like being able to drink on the job when you work with customers. It's probably not a good idea.
Probably not. I'm not going
to go into detail on that one.
I mean, we'll just stop there.
Well, yeah. Alex, even then with a gun, like, honestly, this dimwit that was like a congressman from North Carolina, I won't even say his name because he was so gross, finally pled guilty. If you carry a gun, you have to check it. And you have to let TSA know that you have it. Like, yeah, you're right. You have to have specific certifications, but it's never on the actual, you're never boarding with a gun.
Right. Yeah. It was a road game. They were in a club. I mean, like I said, there's alcohol sold. I mean, it doesn't matter what state you're in. Like, there are different laws everywhere, but that's one that's the same everywhere. Like, you can't have a gun on you where they sell alcohol. Like, that's common. Like that, even in Texas, where the gun laws are lax, like we can't do that there. Like we can't do that there. So, while I do want his mental health to be okay, while I do want the young man to hopefully make some changes and do better, I think that he has to be held accountable this time.
I agree.
So, well, let's move on to something a little bit more positive. The WNBA season starts this Friday, and your girl is so excited. Yes. So we have had some preseason games, and here are the rankings that came out before the preseason. Number 1 was Las Vegas, and we will talk about them shortly. Number 2 is New York. Number 3 is Washington. Number 4 is Connecticut. Number 5 is Dallas. Number 6 is Phoenix. Number 7 is Minnesota. Number 8 is LA. Number 9 is Atlanta. Number 10 is Chicago. Number 11 is Seattle. And number 12 is Indiana. And so we had some more cuts that came around. I'm not sure who said that, but yeah, I would at least 50, but I prefer, I think it should be a season. But that's just my opinion on it. But they have this preseason game.
Hefty penalty on income as well.
Right. So if you can't play that season, I think your salary for that year should be docked.
I'm just saying, if he wants to give money away, I know a great All Chicks podcast that he can totally sponsor and give us money. Just saying. There is responsible ways to do it. I saw a post earlier that had like several different athletes that had guns with them, but they were they were either in a facility where they were at a gun range, or they were in their home, or they were responsibly using it. They weren't in a moving vehicle or a club waving it around on Instagram Live. So different situations. And even honestly, like Alex Arma came back from the Super Bowl in Atlanta when I lived uptown. Okay. And he had this really cool alarm system called the Owl car alarm system, and it shoots a video to you because he has a really sweet car. Like, I freaking love this car, and I got mad at him because he would never let me car sit for him. I was like, I can teach you how to drive this thing. Like, I'm from here. Like, I know how to drive a stick. I can teach you things you didn't know your car could do. He didn't buy. But I remember I came down and I was walking my dog at the time, and I see Alex black fullback, okay? Like, straight up. So this was when tensions were higher than they are at the moment. And I caught his eye, and I'm like, are you okay? He's like surrounded by 8 white cops and 1 Hispanic cop, okay? So I'm like, are you okay? Do I need to come stay in front of him? He's like, no, we're good. I was like, okay, cool. And he got in trouble because somebody tried to steal his car. He got the alert. He grabbed his gun. And he also grabbed our concierge at the time, Hutch. And he went out. I mean, he wasn't going to shoot the guy. He ended up putting him in like a body hold type thing, like on the ground. So gun was never pulled. But and Hutch was so cute. He was recording the whole thing. And Hutch is not a small dude either. And he got in trouble with the Panthers. He almost got suspended by the Panthers for having a
Yeah, it's code of conduct with your employer has nothing to do with your gun rights, but then also there's a responsible way to be a gun owner. But back to the WNBA, there have been you're fine. There's been 2 preseason games for each team, and so I think the rankings are going to change once that starts. Dallas's first game will be against Atlanta this Saturday, but there's 6 games on Friday and 6 games on Saturday. So by this weekend, every team will have played their first game. And there were more cuts today, too. So if you didn't know, WNBA is the hardest professional roster to make. There are only 144 roster spots within the entire league. And so we have like first-round draft picks this season that are getting cut right now because it's just so competitive to make a roster in the WNBA. But Carrie was able to see a documentary over this past week, and she passed it along. So I am going to show the graphic and let Carrie talk about it a little bit.
So it's called Unfinished Business. It's about the New York Liberty ball team from their inception to last year. It's about a 2. I misquoted myself last night in another spot, but it's about a 2-hour movie or documentary. It does cover the different the highs and lows, and like when they left from Madison Square Gardens, where they were sent to White Plains, and they went from everybody wants to be at the Gardens, to playing at a auditorium that's notoriously for high school games. So it cut their attendance in half immediately, and they lost their following. So, so it kind of addresses how the inadequacies or the inconsistent policies that were being done for the to the ladies. It also covered the different hot points or the touch points about being a lesbian in the environment, how they wanted to kind of squash that to begin with, to keep it a family-friendly environment. They talked a little bit about BG and how they can, stuff like that impacted. And BG actually came out. She was kind of the starting point of it being an acceptable thing. She came out the week before the draft that she was a lesbian. So, she kind of broke through that barrier to begin with. And then, but they're comparing how things have changed for the ladies, but also what kind of obstacles they go up against. Where the new writer finally addresses the fact that 2-bedroom apartments are appropriate, where travel is something that should be covered. And you're also looking at ladies that have to play ball year round to get any kind of significant money from this, and going overseas as the kind of the core reason why that the players are injured as often as they are, because
Right.
they have no downtime. They have no time that they can just focus on recovery or, building up their skill set. They're constantly playing. The one thing that made me sad was, and she didn't say who it was, but they said there was one lady that had left the WNBA this season and was working at the local McDonald's to make ends meet in off
Oh my
season.
goodness.
And so
Goodness.
she goes, and how humiliating, you have to think about it, how humiliating. You're playing for a professional league that is well known in the United States, and to support yourself, you're having to work a job that at that time, the time frame she was talking about was traditionally a high school or college employment place,
Right.
so it was really intriguing. I would highly recommend anyone finding it and taking time to watch it,
I love that
because
idea, Troy.
Yeah,
what's
that's a
that?
really good idea.
But it's something positive because even bets are tough. I think we're on the league is on the verge of actually making money. I think they're in a 5-year. If they have a 5-year plan in place, like they'll be making money probably within 2 to 3 years. And then if you have a 5-year plan in place to expand, instead of waiting until you have the money in place. But I mean, yes, you have to wait until there is some money in place, and understandably so, because you don't want these new teams to fold. I think that you make that plan and have it in place of like, okay, so in 5 years, when we've been making money for a couple of years, we're going to expand, instead of like in 5 years, you're like, oh yeah, maybe we should expand. And then it takes 10 years to get a couple of new teams. So, just congratulations, and happy to see the 27th season come for the WNBA. Super happy about that. But that will do it for us this week. I got to run and go do the draft lottery.
One thing real quick, and I know we're kind of beefing tonight ourselves. Katie, you're the only one I'm not beefing with, by the way. I like it.
Wow.
Megan, thank you, because you actually educated me last night. I did not realize that it also took the NBA over 25 years to start turning a profit. So thank you.
Oh yeah, they did. The NBA did not make money until they had 2 superstars in place, and that was Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. And then they started making money. Before that, they operated in the red. So it takes time. And now that we have these 2 super teams, we got Vegas, we got New York. I think that can bring in the viewership and the fans. So just really excited for this season and can't wait for Friday.
Yes. Have a good night.
I'm going to do a quick shout out to my nephew. He was part of a championship cross country team here at a local school. So he actually runs for fun. I run only to keep from being eaten by zombies or something. So currently I haven't had to run very much. But I want to give him a shout out real quick.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And thank you everybody that watched and commented, and we will be back next week.
Yes. See y'all later.